Hey, hi everyone. This is Sai from Let's Upgrade. So let's talk about how to get your certificate. It's very simple. You will see two links in the description. Number one is the place where you have to go and mark your attendance. Marking your attendance tells us, like, okay, you are a legit student who have attended this particular session. Link number two is your assignment. This is where your 90% of the priority is. You have to go and submit the assignment that is given to you in this particular session. Once you're done submitting that assignment, we will be evaluating that. We will send you an email. If you get the passing criteria, then only we will give you the certificate on a particular date that is mentioned again in the description. Please check these three things, and this is the way how you will get a certificate from Let's Upgrade. Number one, mark your attendance. Number two, just go ahead and upload your assignment. Check for the email that you have received it, yes or no. What is the feedback that you have received from your trainer? Number three, check on which date the certificates will be released. Thank you. Bye. All the best. Happy learning.
Hi everyone, this is Nilesh, and in today's video, we are covering one of the most misunderstood topics in SQL, that is filtering groups with having clause, right? And more importantly, we will discuss the real difference between where and having clause, right? So before we start writing any queries, let's understand the purpose, right? So in real world scenarios, let's say someone say to you, find a author who have written more than 10 books, right? So what we are doing here, we are uh, caring about groups, right? Author with count of books, right? So these are group level questions, and SQL handles them through a sequence, right? First we group, then we aggregate, and finally we might want to filter those groups, right? So most people, what they do is they memorize their difference between where and having without truly understanding why both exist, right? So in this video, I am going to make the logic so clear that you will never forget this topic again, right? So let's directly jump in. So before we start using having, right, we must understand why SQL needs two different filtering stages, right? We are talking about where and having, right? Most people think like where and having are similar, but actually they work on two separately different layers of data, right? So first, let's understand the flow, right? SQL doesn't read your query from top to bottom. It follows an internal pipeline that always runs in this order, right? So we'll first understand that pipeline, that flow, and later on we'll discuss each flow one by one also, right? So before going ahead, let's discuss this thing first. Let's discuss the flow. So flow starts with from, right? Flow starts with from. Yeah, from. Then it comes to where clause. But what from does, most of you know, like from, when we use from, SQL loads the raw table, right? Now it comes where clause. What where clause does, it filters individual rows, right? It filters individual rows. You might have known this. Then comes group by. Then comes group by. What group by does, it basically groups the rows, right? It basically groups the remaining rows, right? Then comes the aggregate function. Then comes the aggregate functions. What are the aggregate functions? Count, max, sum, min. These are the aggregate functions, right? These are the aggregate function. After that, what we have, we will use having clause after that, right? What having clause does, it basically filters the group. So what's the difference between where and having? Where filters the rows and having filters the groups, right? You got it. Next thing is select. There are also other differences between where and having also. We'll discuss it as well, right? Let's first complete the flow. So last thing is select, is basically displays the data. So, right? So this internal pipeline, or you can say flow, is pretty much clear to everyone, right? Now what is the key point here, right? What is the key point here? We are using where before having, right? We are using where before having, right? So Where happens before grouping, right? Ideally where is happening before grouping, right? As you can see, we are using group by, and before that we are using where, and after group by we are using having, right? Or you can say after group by or aggregate functions we are having clause, right? That means where works on rows and having group works on groups, right? As I told you earlier, where works on group and having works on, sorry, where works on rows and having works on groups, right? This is clear, right? This is very much clear. Okay, so let's move ahead and let's discuss it in a different way so you might have understand things much clearly, right? Let's understand this flow in a real world scenario, right? Let's say we have a table that have columns like that have columns author or author's name. Let's author name, sorry, author name, and let's say book name, right? Or you can say book title more precisely, right? Okay, let's say author name is ABC, right? Author name is ABC, and book name is, let's say, book X, right? Now again, the same author have written another book. Let's call it book Y, right? Let's say the same author have written another book. Let's say book Z, right? Now there is another author, let's say XYZ, have written another book that is book A, right? Now, if I ask you that I want the name of the author that have written more than or equal to three books, how will you do that? Right? How will you do that? So basically, you will use where clause. From where clause, what will you get? Where clause will give you a the table, right? How many have written how many number of books, right? So where clause will give you ABC have written, let's say, three books, right? And XYZ has written, let's say, one books. Now how will you give me the name of the author? Where clause is done. Yeah, we are done with where clause. Still we didn't get the author name only, right? Now we need to use aggregate functions. This comes after the where clause. When we use aggregate function, when we use aggregate function, we will have a count of books, right? We will have a count of books that a particular author have written. After that we will able to filter, right? Let's see this in a query form so that you will understand it properly, right? So our goal was to find the author who has written more than three books here, right? So let's jump into the query part and let's see how things works, right? So let's open online SQL playground, right? Okay, let's first create a schema, right? Let me just create a schema quickly, right? So create a table. Let's say the table name is books, and we have two columns. Let's say author's name, and that comes with varchar, and let's say length is 50, right? Okay, so we have one column, and we have another column that is book title. This is also varchar, and let's increase the length a bit. Okay, so we have two columns right now. Let's insert the data in this columns first, right? Okay, so let me just quickly close this. Just okay, so we have created. Let's insert some data into it. So insert into books, right? Insert into books, and those values will be, let's say, okay, let's say author, let's say author name is A, and he has written, sorry, author A, and he has written a book. Let's name it book one, right? We have named it book one, yeah. Okay, so let's just copy paste this and we'll change the name. Okay, so let's say same author has written book two, then three, then four, then five, right? And let's change the author then. B, B, and B. Let's name it book one, book two, and then book three, right? Now let's change to another author. Let's say C, 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 and C, right? So it will be one, and then two, then three, then four, right? So we are ready with our schema. Right now we will write a query to understand how things are working with having clause, right? Okay, so let's write select, and we will need author name, and sorry, author name, and then we will have count of books, right? We will have count of books, count of book underscore title, right? We will have count of book underscore title. After that, let's name it first total books, total books, right? We have made the column names very clear, right? Now let's take it from the books, right? We have loaded the data. Now we will use group by to group it by author name, because what we want the author name who has written more than or equal to 5 books, right? So we'll use a group by command to just group the data by author name. So author underscore name, right? Now what we want? We want the author who has written more than or equal to 5 books, right? So we will use having, and we will use count. We'll use the aggregate function, that is count book underscore title, book underscore title, let's put it inside it, that is greater than or equal to 5, that is greater than or equal to 5, right? So we are done with the query, we are done with the query. Now let's just quickly fix it, okay, so that it will look good, right? Okay, yeah. Now query is looking pretty much clear. Let's run it. Let's see what comes. Right. So we have author name that has written 5 books only. Right. We have author names that has written 5 books only. Earlier, what we had when we were using, we will have all the authors and we will have number of books. Right. Now we have exact thing what we wanted. The only author name that has written more than or equal to 5 books, that is author A, right? So I hope things are clear here, right? We also can't use count function in with where clause, right? We can use count function with having clause only, as we have seen in this flow, right? We can use group by or aggregate with having clause only, right? Or before having clause only. Group by must be used before having clause, right? Okay, so we have seen this, right? We have seen this, and this is pretty much clear to everyone, right? Let's move on to the next thing also, right? And in the next thing, we will see like how the other things work in having cost, right? And we will move to the practical real life situation where having clause and where clause both works together, right? Where will filter row level data and having will filter group level data, right? So we will discuss that thing as well. So let's move on to that part. Let's add one more column in this data set or schema, and then we will understand how we can use where and having both, right? So let's add it published underscore year, right? Let's add it published underscore year, and it will be int. Now let's add in this part as well. So let's say 2016, or then we will have 2015, and then let's say 2015, let's say 2014, and 2013, right? And also let's add it 2018, 2019, and let's say 2020, 2020, and let's say this 2012, 2014, 2000, let's give it 2016, and let's say 2017, right? Okay, let me just fix this part. This is good. Okay, now we will see how where and having both works, right? Okay, I asked you a question. You have to give me the author who have written more than or equal to three books, but the count will be considered by the publishing year, and publishing year should be after 2015 or 16, right? Let's say 2015, right? Now, how both having and where clause will work here, right? We have written this query, right? We have written this query, and everything is good. Now we will change a bit here. We will change a bit here. Now we will count everything. This star will be used to select all. So I am counting every book, right? I am counting every book. Now I will use filter. Now I will use filter. So as we discussed here in the flow, we should use where clause before group by, right? So what I will do is I will use where clause and I will filter. I will filter by published year, and published year should be, let's say, greater than 2015, right? Do we have a book, sorry, author who has written? Yeah, we have author B. Author B has written three books that has published after 2015. So we will have an answer author B, right? Let's see, is there any other author? No, we don't have any other author, right? That will lie in our condition. Yeah, we will get an answer author B, right? Now we will change this part also, right? We will need three, but the count will be using all the books, right? Right. I guess this query is also clear to everyone, right? Let me just run this first. We will have a author B, right? We will have a author B. Okay, so we'll have a author B that has written three books, right? Now, what we have done here, we have used where and having clause both, but we have followed this internal flow. We have used where first, right? We have filtered the row level data. So we have row published year. We have filtered the row level data here. right? Then we have used group by. Why do we need group by here? Because we need to group the number of books author have written, right? A particular author have written. That's why we need to use group name here. We have grouped authors by using group by command here. We have followed the same path, right? The same internal flow. Now we have used having, right? We have used having, where I have just filtered those rows that have count of books greater than 3 for a particular author, right? If we run only this query, what we'll get? What we'll get? Number of books and author name who has written books that has published after 2025, right? If we run this query only. Understand? Now we have grouped by the author name and we are using having clause. So we are filtering one more stage. We are filtering by the groups, right? We are filtering by the groups. So we are getting author B only, right? I hope all have a better understanding of where and having, right? Yeah, so I guess this is just to understand having and where clause, right? We are pretty much done, right? We have discussed the internal flow, right? We have discussed the internal flow. We have discussed where clause. We have discussed having clause, and we have discussed where and having both, right? We have discussed it with query also, right? Yeah, so I guess that is it for this video. I hope you guys have understand where and having clause pretty much clearly, right? And you will not forget it later on, right? Okay, thank you so much.